Hello, I'm going to try to briefly recap some of the things we did in class on Wednesday. All right, here's the things I'm going to try to cover in this video. Sorry for speaking fast, but trying to get it in quick. I did a brief overview of what's on D2L. We took the quiz on primary versus secondary sources, and we're going to take a retake on that next week. So you would get a chance to take that retake next week. When you're absent, I don't do another retake just to get the second chance. We did preparation for another quiz we're going to take next week, which is on distinguishing qualitative from quantitative and a Zotero exercise. All right, first I did D2L. So news is going to be here. Syllabus is here, obviously. Do need to buy the book. And I've put all the grades for the course are going to be posted here, and you can check them as we go. But almost everything you need is going to be under the content section. And I've arranged them over here. I'm not sure if you can see all these because I've hidden some kind of time released. They become available as the weeks go by. And Module 1 stuff is stuff that you do in preparation for the upcoming class for January 28th, so I put the dates on there. Might be a little confusing at first, but it makes sense as time goes on. In each module, there's going to be an explanation of what to do to prepare, and then stuff that you can access. And the format is always going to be the same, where I'll have maybe a chapter of the book to read and some things to do to practice with the concepts in the book. Some things that you're going to do individually at home to prepare for group work that we're going to do in class related to group research project. So there's a couple things to do for this coming Wednesday for that. We haven't picked groups yet or topics yet, but we're going to do that at the start of next week. And some kind of topic board. It's not for discussion, although you can, if you want, reply to other people, but it's more for me to get a sense of where you're at on a key idea for that week. All right, so that's the overview of D2L. The next thing that we did was quiz on primary versus secondary, and I'm going to go through some examples I did in class and just ask you to think about how you would evaluate. The idea is to be able to take an abstract and quickly determine whether or not it's primary or secondary, so you could later make decisions, whether you're going to use that article, not use that article, read more, not read more. All right. As I show you each example, you're probably going to want to pause the video, think for yourself, and then I'll give you the answer. So the question is this primary or secondary? All right, pause the video if you need to. Okay, this is primary, and the clue is very clear. 92 teachers participated. So primary is direct evidence from primary sources reported for the first time. Clearly, when you're reporting about participants, it's going to be primary source. Second example. All right, second example. All right, again, primary, 58 first grade students, and they did a final exam, so they're collecting primary source data. Third example. Again, just the fact that they tell you it's a study, an experimental study, is a good clue right there. 32 second grade students, that's a primary source reporting on outcomes of a study with those students. This one's a little trickier because you don't see numbers and it doesn't sound quite as much like a study, but it is. They did naturalistic inquiry with 3 focus groups. And so they're actually conducting a data collection session with people in a focus group. That's primary source research. All right, this example is the first one we've had that it's secondary. There's nothing in here that talks about participants. There's nothing in here that talks about data collection. This sentence here, one way to increase the effectiveness, blah, blah, blah. It's kind of like just that author's expertise being presented, the same way a textbook would tell you something or a teacher would say something to their students. They're not reporting on a study. They're not reporting primary source data. They're just reporting their expertise, right? All right, so the next thing that we did, and we took a quiz, and you'll take a similar quiz on Wednesday. Next thing we did was preparation of qualitative versus quantitative, right? This seems like it's a little trickier, but it can be pretty clear. There's a lot of things that differentiate qualitative and quantitative, and there's things that are associated with qualitative and quantitative, but there's one clear test, and that is what's written here. That quantitative research is anything that generates numerical data or anything that is turned into numerical data. The example that often trips people up is this one: is survey research qualitative or quantitative? Pause the video and think about that. The answer is, I should have said a little bit more. Survey research that would be like Likert style questions: strongly agree to strongly disagree. Are you in favor of President Obama or feel negative towards President Obama? Those things are turned into numbers. Okay, strongly agree, you get a 5, agree, you get a 4, neutral, you get a 3, disagree, you get a 2. They're turned into numbers. The fact that they can be turned into numbers and are turned into numbers with survey research means it's quantitative. Now, what trips people up about that is it's like, well, that's my opinion, and opinions are qualitative. Well, sort of, but that's not the exact test. The exact test is it's numbers, or can it be turned into numbers? And opinions, ideas can be turned into numbers. So you have to look at the way that data is collected. If it's an interview, if it's a focus group, if it's open-ended questions, it's going to be qualitative because those kind of things are not turned into numbers very directly, or really are not. But if it's a survey, if it's a test, something that is turned into numbers, it's going to be quantitative. All right, so let's look at some of those examples again. And the question now is it qualitative or quantitative? Right? Hope you pause the video. This was a trick question. It is both. This is a qualitative and quantitative, or a mixed method study. The part that's quantitative is the survey. The parts that's qualitative is the interview. So they combine two different data collection methods. Next one. Please pause the video. This one is quantitative, and the way that you tell is right there. Scores on final exam. Turned it into numbers. Turned learning, which is really a qualitative idea, into numbers. Right? Next one. Right? This is quantitative pre-test performance. We assume that tests are being turned into numbers. Right? Post-test administered. There's other clues in here, like the fact that it's an experimental study. Experiments are generally, or maybe always, are quantitative. Right. This one is qualitative. Clue here is naturalistic inquiry. That sounds very qualitative. But the most direct evidence is 3 focus groups. The focus groups is not being turned into numbers. It's reporting that would be probably recounted by giving quotations from the focus group participants, or doing analysis of the general tendencies of the group in their thinking. All right, this one is the secondary one, remember? So this one is neither qualitative or quantitative. We don't really categorize it that way when it's secondary. All right. Going back to what we did also a Zotero exercise, and there's a handout that I'm going to include in an email to you about that. But I'll do a little demonstration here.